Ready?
Yeah.
All right, guys. We should be ready to paint now. I mean, this is where we're at. We're gonna kind of walk around the outside. Here's what we got. We got the trim companies finishing up. But what I want to do is, of course, we got some more piles. I got lumber that I got to send back. Now, here's the catch. This will always be a problem. This is always going to be a problem with builders with the lumber to send back because what's going to happen is this has been out here so long until if it has nails or one of my other subs used it or something like that or something happened if a piece of it break off, the lumber supplier is not going to take it back. I'm not going to get credit for it. So that does not work to my advantage. And here's the thing that you guys find out when you're building. If you're building a house, if you have subcontractors and suppliers, it almost appears that nothing, if there's a mix-up or something goes wrong, nothing ever works in the builder's favor. So that's why a lot of times you see builders that are very indifferent because they have to deal with stuff like this every day, all the time. You know, I've talked with a lot of builders when I was when I was kind of coming up, trying to learn how to build, and I noticed that all the builders they were just kind of mean, and they were just kind of indifferent. They were just very direct. And this is one of the reasons that they're like that, because they have to deal with that kind of stuff every day where it almost appears that somebody's always trying to take some out your pocket. And that actually affects the way you actually think. And it's hard to even turn that stuff off. It's hard to turn it off when you go home. So a lot of times when you go home, you still have that mindset as though you have to fight. You have to always do battle and save yourself money, because if the builder lose money, you go out of business. And we call that dying on the vine. You know, if you constantly losing money, it looks like this right here. If I constantly lose a little money right here, here and there, and it constantly happens, that's called dying on the vine. When you look at your bottom line, you realize, I lost money on this right here deal. And if you keep losing money just a little bit at a time, you may make a little profit, but you just still losing and losing. Just like with the lumber prices. Lumber prices right now are unreal. They're unreal. I mean, I'm almost looking at, almost $20,000 more than what it was 6 months ago. So what happens is, if I end up doing if I bid a house, by the time they get that house to the point to where they can close it and do the construction loan, everything has changed. And that becomes a major problem. So we just kind of walk around here, and I kind of get into a little gripe session, not really a gripe session, but I kind of keep going on and on because, these little things right here are things that hurt builders for the most part. Let's go through here. So I got a little, I just went on ahead and put my tile right here. We'll cover that up when I do the backfill of this house. Well, not quite the backfill, but the final grade is what you call it. And so once we do the final grade, a lot of that right there gets covered up. Well, tile ain't nothing but clay, so that's why I do that. Let me close this. Up here now, we got some stone that's gonna go on the side of this house right here, and this stone goes up. I had to change the brick pocket up here, so I had to pay a little extra money to change the brick pocket. That brick pocket had to be changed from a 4.5 inch to accept brick to go in it to a 2.5 inch to allow that engineered stone to be put on this right here. So we're gonna do engineered stone and go all the way up here at the top. And you can kind of see, we're gonna get rid of that light too, so I had to cap that off and get rid of that as well. So stone to go right here and on the sides, and right here on this part right here, and then you can come on up and let me get this right here detail right here. Now up here we have the shingles. So this is the only thing that I can think of, this shingle effect up here, the slates that we have up here, to just kind of give it, because you can't cut a board long enough to get this whole swoop thing in here without having a seam, okay? But now up under here, if you come up under here, come on up under here. I just went on here and just put a seam. You know, I put a seam up here on this right here. So we got a seam, and you know, we got the brick pocket. Everything's good. So all this right here is ready to paint. Now we're gonna paint the brick on this house right here. So everything's gonna be painted. I'm gonna tell you another thing that I had a problem with on my other house. It's coming right here. This stuff right here, your painter the painter is important that this right here gets sealed. This right here, these right here has to get sealed and caulked, and that's every last one of the windows, especially the ones with the brick on it. All right, because what's going to happen is water is going to figure out a way to get in here, and then you're going to have a leak down in the basement, and you're going to wonder where this water is coming from. But that water can get all the way down there and go down there. Now we will put tile here, so this whole front porch is going to be tile. And you should be able to step off this front porch and step right onto the yard, maybe one step. But if you see this little lip that we got right here, see this little lip, this is for the tile. So this is the thickness of the tile. So everything can be smooth once you put the tile up here. We also got some oak post that's gonna go right here. It's gonna go right here. And over here, and one's gonna go in the middle with corbels on it. So that's on the plan as well. Now, one thing I am gonna get rid of, according to the plan, we had a basket above this right here. It's a little ornamental basket that goes up above that window, that goes right in front of that window right there. We're gonna get rid of that because after talking with the decorator, that's just a little bit too much. You got your stone, you got your corbels, and you got the slates. And then you got the basket. That's just a whole lot going on, okay? So we're gonna kind of walk around this thing right here. Now, I noticed I had some, there's another thing right here, guys. I had some bags of concrete that was sitting right here. It's no longer there. And we got to find out where, you know, it looked like it didn't got up and walked away. But, you know, that's okay. I got a camera up there, so I'll figure out who did it. And we'll go from there. Maybe they just put it in the van so they won't get wet. But so let's walk around here. I know we have been around this thing several times, but that's what it's gonna take. Now this right here, I got a boulder guy that's gonna come here and he's gonna stack some boulders right around here. But I gotta get my final grade in first. We gotta go down just a little bit more so we can get a little slope away from the house. You gotta have a 2% slope. It's going down right here away from the house. And we're gonna have some boulders. We might get up to about 6 feet on those boulders. I don't want to do that. Typically, when you get up to 6, anything that's over 4 feet, if you got a 4 feet masonry wall, it needs to be engineered according to the code. Anything that's over 4 feet got to be engineered. I don't know if this right here would be considered a masonry wall, like a block wall or something like that. So it may not be. It may not need to be engineered. But typically that's what you have. All right, so we're gonna come around. I'm gonna look down here. Once we get our final grade in, I can go ahead and put my septic tank in. And I think this is probably the best place for a septic tank. It's right here. Because you got enough falls, you come right here, and then you can go this way. That's all that dirt, that big hump right there, all that dirt gotta go. So that's a good thing. Now, I hope I got a whole bunch of dirt, but all that, this is gonna be kind of leveled out back here. And you had a wall right here, but you got the boulder walls gonna come about right there. And then we're gonna take all that dirt. There's a whole bunch of dirt right here. So that should be enough to backfill and do what we need to do and fix up the front. I may have to get a little bit more dirt for the other side so that we can have our turnaround for the drive. All right, come on around. So everything looks good. I'm glad that tree is kind of leaning over on that side. But now we also get up here. All this right here needs to be painted. We're ready to paint now. Now we're not gonna paint the deck. You know that this is treated lumber here. So all this right here is treated, and you don't want to. That treated lumber right now is trying to acclimate. So it's trying to deal with humidity. You want to give this treated lumber about a month before you start putting any kind of sealant or stain on it. You want to give this thing about, I give it 3 months. 3 months to a year. May not even mess with it until about a year, and then we can come through here, and then we can do we can stain it and then seal it. All right, and that's the deck part. Now we're gonna have screens on this deck as well. Now here's the thing about the screen. You want to wait till the people move in. We need to move in. Of course, this is gonna be one that we move into, but you want to move in before you let me see. You want to move in before you put the screens up, because I used to get a lot of callbacks on those screens because somebody get in here and they'll get in here moving the furniture in, they'll grip on the screen, they'll call you, and I'll be honest with you, man, you just be amazed at what kind of calls you get from homeowners sometimes. They scratch up one of the screens or tear one of them, they're gonna call and say you did it, or we didn't catch this right here. And that's why it's so important for builders to do a very thorough punch list, because a punch list, these are the items that you're gonna handle. These are the items that the bid. Now, just because the homeowner put some on the punch list does not mean that you got to deal with it, because as long as those items meet the building quality and standards, and that is the industry standards, and actually the Home Builders Association, National Association of Home Builders, actually have, you can actually Google this, they have a building quality and standards for residential home. It tells you, it gives you the standards. This should meet within this standard, that should meet within that standard. And as long as it meets within standards, then the builder should be covered. But it also gives details in the event that things don't meet standard and the responsibility of the builder. So you want to make sure that when you're building a house, if you're going to build a house, you make sure that you do that punch list. And like I said, the punch list means you're going to address what they have on there. If it meets building quality and standard, you got to go back to the homeowner and say, hey, look, this right here meets within specs. This is standards, and this is that, and let that be done. Because if you don't, what's going to happen is that homeowner is going to turn you into a maintenance guy for their house for a couple of years, and that's not, a builder. And here's another thing: every time a builder has to go back, he loses money. And I've seen owners when they close on a house, they brag about how much money they saved, how much money they beat the builder down. And the problem with that is, if the builder goes out of business because he didn't make any money, at this point he's not going to be there to cover your warranty. So that's not good. And typically, guys, I'll be honest with you, you don't see problems in your house till after about 7 years. It takes about 7 years for you to actually start to see the problems that you're gonna, the major problems, especially structural problems. That's when you're gonna see those problems within about 7 years of you moving into that house or moving into that structure. So you want that builder to be around. You want him to at least make a little money so that he can stay alive and he can go out here, he can service you. So that's what you want. But like right here, finishes up. It's gonna be a little tough. We gotta figure out a way to get that dirt in there, because the dirt gotta slope away from the house. So we're gonna have to. Some of this stuff gonna be had to hand. It's gonna have to be done by hand, shovels, and compacted. Unfortunately, it may be me and you out here doing that, Mac. Okay. But you go up here, you can see the deck is pretty much done. We just use hardy board. Now, once again, on this right here deck, this may not be as bad than if I had some other material, but humidity is going to go through those holes right there. You zoom in the holes on the soffit. That soffit, those holes right there. Humidity, once again, humidity is water. I mean, all around us is air. And air is nothing but water in its vapor form. And so what it does is it's going to float up there, on a hot day, it'll float up there. When the humidity is high, it's going to go up there and go between those holes there. It's going to go inside of there, and then it's going to build up moisture and maybe just leak back down. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put some vents at the top of the house. I'm going to have to put 1 or 2, they call them turtle backs. And you put them on the top of the house so allow the water to go, the moisture to go in there, go in through the soffits, and then they're going to go on up throughout the top of the house. And that's what you're going to have. So that's probably going to work. Now, don't look like my guys put the concrete in here. So either they got the concrete that we saw out front, either they got it in their trucks, or they, somebody got it. Or maybe that's just so wet, if I stick a stick down in there, maybe we got it at that point. I doubt it. No, ain't nothing in there. Now, if you notice right here, let's come up in here now. We're gonna have bolts up in here that's attaching. Now, this right here, the rim joist or the rim girder. I'm sorry. This right here that goes around, it actually rests on top of that brick. You know, that brick roll-off here. All right. So it rests on top of the brick roll-off. Roll-lock. What's it called? Roll-lock. It rests on top of the brick roll-lock, and those are the 2x12 that goes around right here, and they're attached to the rim board on the inside of the house. So you got your sheathing, you got your rim board, and that's what they're attached to. That's what this right here is attached to with those bolts there. And notice how I have each one of these bolts staggered. All right, code requires you to, you got one up here and one down here. You can see it real good right there. One up and one down. Now, the reason for that, I'll tell you the purpose of that. The purpose of that is because if you do it all in the same place, or you just do it all in the middle, that lumber's probably gonna split right there in the middle. That's why you wanna go up and down. It's probably not gonna split like that. Like I said, if you got all of them in the same spot all the way through, it's probably gonna split that girdle. And you see how we got on the other side, we got it encapsulated on the other side, holding it all together. Because the rim board that we have that's on this right here, since it's an I-joist system, it's not sturdy enough and strong enough to hold this thing, to hold this whole thing together. Now, that roll-lock and it's resting on top of the roll-lock is a good thing. It holds it real good, but that's just not enough. And I think this Shelby County actually requires you to have it anchored in on the back part, at least 2 per deck. We're gonna go around here. That's a big old tree, man. I think that's one of the biggest trees. That thing's probably 100 years old. We're gonna come around here and we're gonna look up here now. One thing that we did have wrong, and this is, my lumber guy, he sent these out here as joists. They hold the joists up right here. These right here are a little too short. And so my guys had to take that down. And see, this, once again, this is another problem. When they sent these out here, these guys put it up. But it's, it's almost impossible to catch every problem that you're gonna have on a house. But this is one thing, I'm looking around, I might see you other problems. But this right here is the wrong size. So we got a different size right here. We got the correct size to go all the way up. It has to go the full length of that I-joist when it attached. That's to keep the top part from moving. And I promise you guys, this stuff will move. So we'll send those. I got 2 minutes, so I'll send those back. These right here. Somebody got one of my other posts outside. So this is some of the lumber. Now I kept some of this lumber for the deck because we got to do the steps. I'm gonna keep that here for right now. And so once everything comes in, once we get everything graded and everything ready, we'll put the steps up in there and we'll send that back. We may just have to put it on a truck and take it back because they don't. It takes so long for those guys sometimes to come out here and pick the stuff up until by the time they come out here and pick it up, it's all damaged. One of the subs are messed up or somebody stole it. You never know. So it has some extra brick. We'll hold on to those. We may need those somewhere. It has some extra shape. And once you pop the seal, which these guys look like they're done, once you pop the seal, you can't use them again. But that is what it is. That's one little bundle that we got. All right, so let's kind of go up here. Let's see. We might not be able to go up this way. Yeah. So now, right now, guys, we're putting in the steps. So the trim carpenters are here. They're here. So they're putting in all the steps, the treads, and the risers going all the way up. And this is another key too, guys. This is another way that you can get some stuff messed up. There cannot be each one of these steps right here. I think the code says you can go out. I think it's 10.5 inches out and 7.25 inches down. So your riser needs to be 7.25. Your tread, which is going this way, horizontal, it's going to be 10.5. I typically like to go a little bit more than 10 and a half just to make sure we meet code. But if you go all the way up these steps, you cannot have, I think it's a 1/4 of an inch differentiation from each one of these steps all the way up. So one of these steps is like a 1/4 of an inch differentiation between all of them. You gotta tear these whole stringers. These 2x12s right here, and they're expensive. You gotta tear them all out. So you gotta get that right. So it's critical to know what kind of material is gonna go on the bottom, and what kind of material you're gonna have at the top as your finishing flooring up at the top, because you don't want to get those things messed up. If you got, say for instance, carpet down here and hardwood up here, that framing carpenter, not the trim guy, the framing guy needs to know. And then if you kind of got off a little bit, you can let the trim guy know so that he can kind of tweak it a little bit. All right, and it's kind of hard for him to tweak it because you don't want to try to put, you want to put some glue on these right here things, and then you want to put those treads on top. That's what and then you want to shoot your nails in it. That's what you want to do. You don't want to have to shim up some stuff up under it and stuff like that. That's where you get your squeaks, okay? So we can't go up that way, so let's kind of go around this way. I can smell like food, man. Maybe time for me and you to eat, right? All right. So, I'm gonna walk this thing one more time. Notice everything, this thing is ready to be painted. Everything is, we're ready to paint. That way, everything is done so that, here's what you don't want. You don't want your painter, you don't want that painter, you want all your subs to come out here one time. Do what they gotta do and get done. That's what you want. You don't want the painter to have to come out here 4 and 5 times to finish up stuff. So you want to go ahead and get this thing painted up one time, let him do all he got to do and be done. And you want him to go on the inside, do all he got to do and be done. Problem is, right now, I don't know if it's due to the COVID and all that kind of stuff. Right now, it's, you know, the interior doors are, I mean, this is a crazy thing, man. They're on, you know, some of them shipped and some of them didn't ship, and it's kind of weird. Some of them on back order. So that's a problem, because once you get your trim carpenters out here, you have to have a delay. Those guys have to leave, and that's not what you want. You want these guys to come out here and finish up everything, because you want to save them time. You want them to make money, and then you want to get it done. Then you want to get draws from the bank, because they're not gonna give you credit for it until all of it is in. For the most part, they may give you partial sometime, but you want to make sure all that is done. You heard that? You heard that hawk? See them hawks over there?
Buzzards?
No. Oh, he's diving too, man. I hope he ain't found a little kitten or something out there, man. Them jokers will go at him. But you want your guys to come out here one time. You want to save your subs. You want your subs to be happy to come on your site and make money, because they know you got everything ready for them, and they can get on there, they can finish their job up, and they can get paid, and they can get off your job. That's what you want. And you want to make sure you meet them out here, make sure y'all go over everything, make sure y'all on the same page. And a lot of times, guys, I listen to my guys, because, although I see things the way it should be done on the plans, and I don't like to differentiate from what's on the plan. I like to kind of keep everything consistent. But those guys, a lot of times, your subcontractors, your HVAC guys, your plumbers, your electricians, your carpenters, your brick masons, those guys are out here doing it every day, and they're practical. But one thing you have to understand is, you have to know when they're trying to, when you have to understand when they're trying to get out of work. Now, that's another thing. I have some guys that are, they'll tell you something because they don't want to do that much work. But then most of my subs, when they tell me stuff, you can sense the sincerity that they have. A lot of those guys will tell you stuff, and it's honest. Hey man, this right here needs to be done like this right here. If you don't, you're gonna have callbacks. And I look at it as logical and it makes sense. I'm gonna go with them. But then if it's not logical and doesn't make sense, this guy tried to get me to do something that I don't really want it done that way, because he's trying to get out of work. He don't want to do that much work. Then that becomes a problem. Okay, so we're gonna go on in here. Let's go on the inside. Let's make sure we're all on the same page. We got all that done. That looks good. That looks really, really good. I like it. You're gonna have one step, which is good. This is another detail. I don't like on this house and the house I'm building another house across town, but both of them I made sure I dug deep enough. We had that little problem right there, but I made sure I dug deep enough to make the house look natural. Make it look like you don't want to have a house, and if you go to some of these other houses in the neighborhood, you got like 10 steps going up to the front door. You know, I don't like to walk up a lot of steps, and but you want it to look a little natural. You walk, you know, this is almost gonna look like a slab home. Not quite, but you're gonna have one step right up here, and then you're gonna step right one time right here. Okay. So we got this right here done. That looks good. I mean, that looks good. This is a little detail wall that we're gonna have right here. The decorator decided that she wanted to have this wall needs to be the same color as the island. And the cat, by the way, the cabinets will be here next week. So we'll have that to look at as well. And then we did this right here up here. I was gonna put another piece of 1x10 all the way around, but you know, that's just a little bit too much. So we're gonna stop it right here. This looks good. This is what you want. This gives you a different look. All right, so you come here, and this is what the steps are gonna look like when it gets done with. So this is what we're looking like right here. We have 2 posts right here at the end. You have with some rosettes that's on the wall that got the handrails coming in. And then, so this is what we're gonna look like. This is what they look like here. Okay? So that's gonna look good. So we finally get a chance to walk up. I guess the dog can walk up to the now. So we're gonna come around now. Once again, I'm kind of looking at things, making sure that things gonna be okay. We got a lot of stuff left over here. I might need to send some of this stuff back. And this is what see up here, we're gonna have pine. This is tongue and groove pine. What we're gonna do with that is we're gonna stain that. We're gonna give it a nice little stain, and that's gonna, what do you think?
Looks real nice.
You get a picture of that or me?
Yeah, I didn't see that.
Yeah. All right, so yeah, that's gonna be really nice. You know, just a different look in each room. And then in some cases, I think the decorator said that she wanted, I tell you what guys, you gotta make sure you get a good decorator. Decorator knows her stuff, got this thing figured out. That's critical. I don't like to sit here and think about how all this stuff gonna come together, but sometimes they have a great eye to see all this stuff. So, you know, get you a good decorator. You know, sometimes it's you know, they can get pricey on you. They can go out and pick some things out that's really pricey, and sometimes you got to hold them to that budget. You know, I spend a lot of time kind of grabbing and pulling them to the budget because when we start this project, you have a budget for everything. And like I said, if you can find, if the lighting fixtures were a little bit more, let's say $700-800 more than what my budget had, then I have to find that somewhere else in my line items to make sure I compensate. Does it make sense? So we got this right here going on. We probably not gonna put no crown up here until we get these cabinets set, because they got a cabinet, you know, they got a hood that comes down right here. So once we get the cabinet set, the guys can run all their crowns. So probably next week, if we got our doors in by then, those guys can put all the crown on. Now I'm seeing one thing that looks like it's gonna be a problem. They use my pine instead of putting it on the bathroom floors. These are 1x8 pine. They cut them and put them over here and think they should have been using these down here somewhere. But hey, that's one of them things, man. Sometimes you miss it. I miss that. We gotta go in here and nothing happened in here lately, so I think everything else is the same. We got that going on, so we got the tile in this area right here. Now the reason that you see these windows right here, they don't have any trim on them yet, because what we had to do is right here at the top, there's a certain kind of bendable, but it's already kind of bent. There's a bendable trim piece that goes at the top that is bendable when you paint it. They hadn't, for some reason I don't see them. We had one that's in here that's flexible, but it's not bendable like this. It's flexible like that horizontally, but You can't bend it like that. Okay. Another detail, I made sure I came in here and I sealed all this right here because we don't want to heat and cool the air between the walls. And so I broke all this right here off. And the reason I broke it off is because I know that when my cabinet guys come in here, they're just gonna snatch it out. You know, and so when they snatch it out, they're gonna snatch it all the way out. And they may not do that. They may have experience with this. But in a lot of cases, when you're doing something that's energy efficient and green and something that's kind of new, those guys don't understand that. So I have to intervene to make it to where they don't undo the idea that they don't undo something I'm trying to do. Okay, so we're gonna kind of go around. Let me just do a little full circle. And these are the posts. And I know these are not the ones I had in mind, but it's gonna work. Okay, you got this. This thing only works for you. So yeah, this is a regular square post. That's good. I can live with it. Looks good. Okay. There you go. Now we're gonna put these treads. Sometimes, most of the time, the builders use not oak treads, but they use some 1x12s. I'm sorry, 2x12s. And they just cut them and they put them in here for the basement risers. I'm sorry, treads. They put them in here for the basement because no one really cares because you're just going down to the basement. But I think a house on this level, man, you need to. These right here are a little cheaper. It's made out of a composite type wood. It's a little cheaper than the oak treads, but it's not. But it's more expensive than the 2x12s. Okay, and it looks better because you got a tongue and groove there. It's just a better look. Especially in a house like this right here. Especially if you end up finishing the basement, or the basement end up getting finished. I don't have to rip all the treads out again. I can just paint them actually, do something like that. Okay. I don't want to go upstairs. We just leave like this right here. That's what it's gonna look like. You come in here. Of course, instead again, we got all our tiles. This is that big old tile. Now around the tub and stuff, let's get that tile right there, man. That's some big stuff right there, man. That is some big tile. That's like 2x3.
What do you do with the crack stud, the crack tile?
It's on the back. She ordered me 2 more pieces. But he might be able to use those, the waste pieces, because I'm sure when you get up in here, man, it's gonna be. Matter of fact, there's a sitting area inside that shower. So with that being said, he may be able to use that broke piece. He got 2 broken ones. He may be able to use that for that. I had some tile actually left over, but typically, guys, what you want to do is you want to just have 1 box of tile. I usually try to keep about 1 box of tile. All right, man. Did you have any questions? Any additional questions you may have? Just trying to fill all this right here.
Yeah, for a deck, what do you call those joists? Like the floor? Would you stay the same as a flooring joist?
Which ones?
The ones up under the deck. The ones that go vertical.
Yeah, those are your joists.
Just regular joists?
Yeah, you just call them deck joists or your flooring joists for your deck. What about?
Okay. I was just asking.
Oh, okay. They're the same. They're just not as big as the ones that you have in the house, as the ones you have outside of the porch. And the reason they don't, here's the thing, typically, the reason that they're not as big and they're not as strong is because in here, you're gonna have a lot of dead loads, guys. When I say dead load, that means you're gonna have furniture that's gonna be sitting here all the time, that may be heavy, and that load is pushing on the floor constantly all the time, not moving. Like cabinets is a dead load. And those cabinets are moving, that weight is pushing down with the countertops on top of it. Typically on a deck, you have live loads. When I say live loads, the stuff that you put on the deck, It's always moving around. You're gonna have some furniture, but you're gonna be able to move it. You're not gonna have anything that's set there in stone, just there. And so the flooring joist on the deck does not have to be as strong as the flooring joist inside the house. Does that make sense? And so that's why you typically don't have the joist there, according to code, is a little less than it is to be here inside the house. All right? And that is a code question. Matter of fact. All right. They look like they come along this house up here, but this building has ran into some of the same problems that I'm running into. The windows. Guys, windows and stuff. Man, I went on ahead, I got a house now, we hadn't even done the slab yet. And I went on ahead and ordered the windows. And I was told that the windows are gonna take 10 to 11 weeks to come out. So I will have the house framed up and everything, and those windows are not gonna be here. So I'm gonna have to, do everything else and do as much as I can. But here's the thing, I think right now what people should do now, what builders should do now, as soon as that excavator, well, here's the thing. As soon as you go pull the permit, go ahead and order your windows. I think you'll be safe on that. All right, I think that's it, man. Thanks. Just go get something to eat.
Bet.